I leave the room to Hassan for some more words. Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you very much, Marco. Thank you very much for having me, Marco. It's always fun to come here, and it's always a pleasure to meet all of you. This is not my first time here, as Marco said, but this time I brought people with me because last time I was here, a lot of questions were there, and I alone was not able to answer all of them. So I have 8 more people from my company which came here. I mean, we had a conference just in in Turin, and we said, okay, you know what, we're gonna come here, do this workshop, catch up with the other like sister companies and startups and so forth to like see what we can do together. So yeah, like Marco said, I mean, I'm in AI for quite some time, 31 years by this year actually. This is my 5th startup, so this is not my first time around trying to establish something. And by the way, not all of them were successful, so this is I hope this is different this time, of course. But what drove me to build AI companies was always something about enablement. I mean, that motivates me, building something where, for example, at eBay, we can enable people to do more selling cross-border. That was my first job there, to build basically technology to enable people to sell from one country to another country without needing to seeing the language being a barrier between you, for example. And then later we did other things like identifying fake products, improving the search capability, doing other computer vision things, speech and language, everything. And then at AWS, I was actually focusing on building AI as a service so that everyone who is an engineer who is on AWS can actually utilize AI for their use cases. I loved that experience. We saw a lot of companies actually utilizing this. But one of the things which actually motivated me then to think about Explain is we are enabling engineers, and the world has more smart people than just engineers. We are engineers. Yes, we are. We are in an advantage that we can actually access these kinds of technologies. But the smarts are everywhere. They can be actors, artists, they can be lawyers, etc. I mean, everyone is smart in their own way. And we need to give them these people. Should we turn it down a little bit? Just so. And we need to give these people the right tools into their hands so that they can actually build good solutions, even if they're not engineers. I mean, I compare what we're going through today to graphical user interfaces. Before graphical user interfaces were there, you needed to be an engineer to know how to use the command line interfaces to use the computer. And then graphical user interfaces came with macOS and with Windows. And then suddenly everyone can do something with computers, even if they're not engineers, which is great. Now we have the same situation with AI. Now AI gives us now capabilities to make the machine more human-like. So that we are more able to like build certain solutions. So just to, like you have seen now, earlier, Miqdad, or you experienced now the platform where we are basically using the platform to enable people who are not necessarily programming, but able to like use a canvas to draw a certain solution. There is also an SDK for us where you can actually still do coding and build basically the same kind of capability using an SDK. And you can use Bel Esprit if you are not even able to use the canvas, if it's a challenge. I use actually Bel Esprit first, go then to the designer, to basically improve on the solution, and then can experiment with that. So this is the way I do things, for example. Now, An important component is that we are moving away from the typical way of programming towards other ways of coding to development, solution development. I mean, you don't need necessarily C++, Python capabilities to start building things. And as a step after that, we need to actually start making code even more human compared to us. And that's where the concept of agents is coming in. We basically are considering at Explain every technology can be actually embedded as an agent, which means, let's say, a speech recognition engine can be an agent. That agent should know what it's able to do. I can do speech recognition. That agent should know that it can actually take audio in and generate text as an output. Another agent could actually know, okay, I can actually take text in and text out. And I know that my text in, if it's in Italian, and text out, if it's in English, I can probably do a great job. I might actually be able to do more as an agent than just that. So this is the concept of building agents, building solutions with agents by basically putting two agents in the same space and telling maybe one orchestrator agent, can you actually solve this and that problem? And then instead of basically that agent needing to know ahead of time, I need to connect and so forth, it can actually broadcast into that space and say, who can actually take text in, audio in, and generate text out in, for example, English. And then basically one of the agents might raise the hand and say, I can. And then basically and then it can do the next step by figuring out which one of you can actually do text in and text out from English to Italian. And then the orchestrator can actually tell or orchestrate basically the flow of the data on how it's basically and that basically is how you build applications. So being smart in putting the right agents in the same space and asking the orchestrator to like serve that problem. What you can also do, what we in Explain also do, is when you are building an agent. I mean, today everyone knows that just building business logic with AI is not enough. We need to do a little bit more, right? We need to be able to like explain basically why certain things happen. We need to make sure that certain policies are kept. We need to make sure that we don't have bias. We need and so forth. So these agents can actually do now more than just taking one input, converting it into the other output. You can actually tell them, if you have the right sub agent inside, you can tell them, pay attention that the output looks a certain way. For example, it's not biased towards male speakers or something like that. And if it basically is not generating output which is harmful or something like that. And we have an agent, for example, where we call it inspector, which can actually take care of these policies which you define, so that that it's being kept more safe. Also, other things inspector does is identify if the output of the solution which is being generated, does it actually solve the problem which it was asked to do. So basically evaluating, doing tests on the go, where you basically say, no, the output is actually not what I asked. Actually, I wanted to do, the input needs to be audio in, and the output needs to be Italian text out, and you gave me something in English. What happened? And then basically the system can go back and like tell another agent, which basically is the mentalist, or the what we call it mentalist, basically, which is helping orchestration and interpretation of what the input is, to redo it, or to go back to the user and ask a certain question, say, I can't do anything with that, or go, if you allow it, or go into the internet and pull information to like get more knowledge about this. Or third one is that the system is actually able to like hire more agents to help with a certain a certain capability, where it says, okay, you know what, the input was actually a picture, and you have only audio and text processing. If you're allowing me, maybe I can find an agent out there and explain one of the 40,000 agents we have. Can you actually take image in and generate text out so I can deal with that? And so forth. So this is basically, we're turning an engineer or a developer of a solution into an entrepreneur, where you basically have the task of finding the right people to like put them into the same space, and then basically letting them collaborate to solve a certain problem. So what does that mean for us if we're talking about language technology? So in for language technology, for if you want to, you still build models, technology, and so forth, but you can now take that and onboard it on Explain, and it basically enables that language technology to be like an agent, a service like that, where this agent can be interacting with other agents. This agent, I mean, an agent can be a human. I mean, this is actually very important, that a human is an agent with extra capabilities at the end of the day. Maybe slower than the AI, a bit slower than LLM, etc., but it has more fidelity, maybe. It has more capability. It can learn from it, etc., etc. So this is how we should look at things. And tomorrow, when we are using agents to develop with, the way of developing is going to change. We don't need to like make sure all the use cases that are covered. We need to make sure that we have the right agents in the same place. We need to basically say what the general flow of a system is by building a pipeline, like what you guys are doing now for the workshop. You develop a pipeline. This is a happy path, and then you can take that and make it an agent, and then basically, even if it's not exactly even if something comes in and it's not exactly fitting, it can actually correct itself and improve. I mean, think about, we want to be able to do at some point, I mean, if an XML file comes in, so the format is actually wrong, and you send it into some agent which is expecting a JSON or an Excel sheet, and you want to send it into an agent which expects JSON, that it automatically converts. It doesn't need to ask you the question. It will just understand what needs to be done and then go from there. So this is the idea of what agents have to be able to do down the road. We built our first agent in Explain actually like about 3 years ago, when we started Bellesprit. Bellesprit is an agent framework. We use that to collect experience on how to do what we call mentalist first, to identify, understand what the user wants, translate it into a pipeline fully automatically, and then also an inspector, which is basically identifying whether the output is semantically correct or it is functional, etc. So all these things, and something we call like a matchmaker. So we have the mentalist, then we have the matchmaker to fill it with models which are out there in the marketplace, and then the inspector to identify if everything is according to the design, and then basically the orchestrator itself is Bellesprit to go and maybe allow cycles, maybe allow to go out and find people to like serve the problem, which is at hand, because maybe not all the models which are necessary for a certain problem are in the platform, and so forth. So this is what we do. You have access to Bellesprit now. If you basically see on the lower left of your screen, you can actually experiment with that. And that's like a preview of what you can do when you basically onboard whatever technology you're building into the platform or utilizing it this way. What else should I say? This is basically what I wanted to like talk about. I think the agents are gonna be the next wave of basically how to develop technology. where everyone is able to do this by just like bringing technology together in form of agents instead of us needing to be PhDs in AI or in learning computer science even and so forth. It doesn't mean, by the way, that the scientist and the engineer is not basically needed. On the contrary, there is a need, but I mean, most of the work, which is tedious work for us, is going to be able to like be done by the agents. I mean, someone needs to still go in and like improve. For example, if an agent is doing a great job even without basically developing a pipeline inside, you might need someone to like say, okay, to improve efficiency, building a pipeline is going to be cheaper than using an LLM to basically do the agent flow, for example. So there is always a need for the engineers, but we accelerate faster in doing what we're doing. Yeah, so that's all I have. Questions, discussion points, please come with them. Let's chat. Thank you.